Hi everyone, today's lesson is lesson 23 and it's on ratio and rate. Those are two very different things, but they definitely go hand in hand in math. And we're just going to talk a little bit about when and why you use those today. Those are both things that really happen a lot in everyday occurrences. Everyday type things that you're doing around your house or in your world involve rate and ratio. I'll talk a little bit more about some examples here as we move forward. Let's look at our learning targets for today, though. Our learning targets are you are going to use ratios to describe a relationship between two numbers. And some of you might remember from before that there are actually a few different ways to write ratios. And I'll demonstrate those for you. And then also identify ratios and write them in fraction form. Writing them in fraction form is just one way. So just to go over a little bit of a definition here, a ratio is a way to describe a relationship between numbers. Here's an example. If there are 13 boys and 15 girls in a classroom, the ratio of boys to girls is 13 to 15, and it can be written this way. I just want to note one important thing really quick before I even show you how this looks. If they are asking you boys to girls, meaning boys first, whatever they ask you about first, that number must come first. Really, really common error that happens in math, like on assessments and quizzes and things like that. Oftentimes you'll see they'll give you one piece of information first and then ask you for a different piece of information first. For example, they might say there are 13 boys and 15 girls. What is the ratio of girls to boys? So they'll try to trick you. So always be paying attention. Whatever they ask you for first, that number must come first. Also, super important in your math, whether this is required quite yet or not, this is just a really, really good skill to get into the habit of. Ratios are like fractions. So as you advance in your work with ratios, you need to know that these ratios, just like fractions, need to be reduced into simplest form. So for example, if I were talking about a ratio of pumpkins to apples and the ratio was 4 to 2, I can reduce that. 4 and 2 have a common factor. So we can reduce that down to a ratio of 2 to 1. Let's move forward. So here's 3 different ways to see ratios. We have it literally written out, 13 to 15. This is my favorite way. This must just have been the way that I resorted to learning about ratios. This is how I always write them when I'm given the option with this little colon here, 13. You still read this as 13 to 15. And then here also as well, this is one of your learning targets today, remembering that ratios can be written like a fraction. So you would read this still as 13 to 15. Let's just take a look at these little notes. We write them in the order that we're asked to give them. Just said that reduce ratios, really important. And that is a typo, not rations. Ratios, leave them in fraction form. We don't leave them as mixed numbers. Yeah, if it looks like a fraction, it stays like that. Queso dip. Okay, this is really random, but I wanted to take this opportunity. Anytime I can tie in real life scenarios to math, I think that's really important to tell you about. So it's fall, it's football over the weekend, it's football season, and so my mind is thinking about all sorts of yummy food to make, and especially dips. Ratios play a huge role in cooking of any kind. And when I was browsing for recipes over the weekend, I came across this one. And how great is this? It's only 2 ingredients. If you're in my physical math class, you will get a paper copy of this recipe for this delicious queso dip, 2 ingredients. And if you are a distance learner, I will link this website to this assignment so you can make this at home. Super easy. 2 ingredients. It's salsa verde and cream cheese in a ratio of 1 to 2. So you'll see a little bit more about what I mean with the ratio of 1 to 2. It's 1 cup of cream cheese, 2 cups of salsa verde. Easy peasy. Heat it up, eat it with chips. ratios in real life. Take a look at this example. A team lost 3 games and won 7. What is the team's win-loss ratio? Go ahead and pause this video and give it a try, and unpause when you're ready to check your work with mine. All right, so you can see here, I've taken the time to write out 3 different ways to look at this. Checking your work with mine, the reason that I have listed the number 7 first is because they have asked, what is the team's win-loss ratio? So the number that correlates with winning, which is 7, comes first. So here are 3 different ways to see this. Again, I'm really sorry about the sloppy handwriting. I'm using my finger on this touchscreen Chromebook. So we have 7 to 3. We also have 7, this is supposed to be a colon, 7 to 3, and then fraction form, 7 to 3. Is the win-loss ratio the same as the loss-win ratio? Definitely not. The loss-win ratio is 3 to 7. It's important to pay attention, especially in math. Here's another example. In a class of 28 students, there are 13 boys. What is the ratio of boys to girls in the class? Be careful, this is kind of a 2-step problem. Go ahead and pause it, give it a try, and unpause when you're ready to check your work with mine. So as we're checking over this work here, pay close attention to the fact that I, in nowhere in my answers, have the number 28, because 28 is our total number of students, and that's not what they're asking about. In the end, they're asking, what is the ratio of boys to girls? So they've only given us the information for boys, 13 boys, assuming that we will figure out that the other half or the other portion of students are girls. So here we go. They told us 13 boys. They've asked for boys to girls, meaning boys number first. We have 13 to 15. I got the number 15 by taking 28 students minus 13 boys. It gave me 15 remaining girls. So 13 to 15 like this, 13 to 15 with a colon, and then 13 to 15 like a fraction. So now we're talking about rate a little bit. I'm going to zoom out so you can see this whole slide. Distance learners, go ahead and take some time really looking at this. To be honest, this is a lot to look at. I just want to talk through an example of something really quick. This is overwhelming, I feel like. But let me just kind of give you a quick example. This weekend, we did a lot of yard work, and my husband mowed this area of grass that hasn't been mowed in a really long time, and it left like hay almost all over our yard. And we told our boys that every time they made a trip with their little gator hauling this grass to the woods, we'd give them $1. True story. So they were really motivated to make trips for us to haul this grass out of the yard because they love earning a little bit of money. So rate, here's how rate comes into play. Rate is like this. Every time they did one trip, they earned $1. So I'm going to see if they actually give us a definition. A rate is a ratio of measures. So like for people who babysit, a rate is like what you charge per hour. Or again, if you mow lawns, what you charge per lawn that you mow. That's a rate, right? Let me see if they give us an example. On a bike, Jeremy rode 60 miles in 4 hours. What was his average speed in miles per hour? Go ahead and pause this. Give it a try. Find this rate and then unpause when you're ready to check your work with mine. All right, so here you can see my work. I've taken his 60 total miles, divided that by the 4 hours, and I've found his rate of speed, which is 15 miles per hour. One more rate practice problem. Mr. Moskow's car averages 32 miles per gallon on the highway. It's pretty good. Predict about how far he can expect to travel on a road trip using 10 gallons of fuel. Go ahead and pause and unpause when you're ready. All right, just to wrap up here, I've taken his 32 miles per gallon times 10 gallons of gas, and it's given me 320 miles about that he can travel. That's it for today. we will continue to work with rate and ratio a lot this year. I hope this makes you a little bit aware, though, of how often you're experiencing that in your everyday life. If you can think of an example, distance learners, if you can think of an example of how you or someone in your family uses rate or ratio, I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message. Thanks for watching and have a great day.